Did you know how did World War I start? World War I, also known as the Great War, began in 1914 and lasted until 1918. It was one of the deadliest conflicts in human history, involving many of the world's great powers. The origins of World War I are complex and multifaceted, involving a combination of long-term and immediate causes. Here's an overview. Number 5. Militarism. In the decades leading up to World War I, the European powers indeed engaged in a significant arms race characterized by the rapid expansion and modernization of their military capabilities. This arms buildup was fueled by various factors including technological advancements, imperial ambitions, and growing geopolitical tensions. The late 19th and early 20th centuries witnessed remarkable advancements in military technology, particularly in weaponry and transportation. Innovations such as repeating rifles, machine guns, and artillery with greater range and accuracy transformed the nature of warfare, making it deadlier and more destructive than ever before. Additionally, the development of steam-powered ships and the introduction of dreadnoughts, heavily armed and armored battleships, revolutionized naval warfare. These technological advancements contributed to a sense of urgency among European powers to modernize their armed forces and maintain military superiority over potential adversaries. Nations invested heavily in expanding their armies, navies, and air forces, as well as in the production of weapons and ammunition. Imperial ambitions and competition also played a significant role in driving the arms race. European powers sought to expand their colonial empires, particularly in Africa and Asia, leading to territorial disputes and conflicts over resources. The acquisition of colonies not only provided economic benefits but also served as a source of national pride and prestige. Moreover, growing geopolitical tensions and rivalries between European powers exacerbated the arms race. The formation of military alliances, such as the Triple Alliance and the Triple Entente, further heightened suspicions and fears among nations. Each alliance sought to counterbalance the military capabilities of its adversaries, leading to a dangerous cycle of escalation. Number 4. Alliance system. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, European nations formed intricate alliances with one another, setting the stage for the complex diplomatic landscape that would ultimately lead to the outbreak of World War I. The two primary alliances that emerged during this period were the Triple Alliance and the Triple Entente, each consisting of major powers seeking security and strategic advantage in an increasingly tense international environment. The Triple Alliance, formed in 1882, consisted of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. It was initially conceived as a defensive pact aimed at countering the influence of France and Russia in Europe. Germany, under Chancellor Otto von Bismarck, played a central role in orchestrating this alliance, viewing it as a means of maintaining the balance of power on the continent. For Austria-Hungary, the alliance provided a crucial security guarantee amid growing tensions in the Balkans, while Italy saw it as an opportunity to secure support in its territorial disputes with France. Similarly, the Triple Entente, formed in the early 20th century, comprised France, Russia, and Britain. Unlike the Triple Alliance, the Triple Entente emerged more gradually and was driven primarily by shared concerns about the expansionist ambitions of Germany and Austria-Hungary. France and Russia, both of which had experienced diplomatic isolation in the aftermath of previous conflicts, sought to bolster their security by forming closer ties with one another. Britain, meanwhile, grew increasingly wary of Germany's naval buildup and sought to align itself with France and Russia to counterbalance German power. While these alliances were initially intended to provide security and stability, they also had the unintended consequence of creating a delicate system of interlocking commitments and obligations. A conflict involving one member of an alliance could quickly draw on others, leading to the potential escalation of a localized dispute into a broader continent-wide war. This phenomenon, known as entangling alliances, significantly heightened the risk of conflict and limited the diplomatic flexibility of individual nations. Number 3. Imperialism. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, European powers embarked on a fervent quest for overseas colonies and territories, driven by a combination of economic, strategic, and imperial ambitions. This period of intense colonial competition, often referred to as the Scramble for Africa and the Age of Imperialism, profoundly reshaped the global political landscape and significantly contributed to the diplomatic tensions that ultimately culminated in World War I. The colonization of Africa and Asia represented an extension of Europe's imperial expansion, as nations sought to acquire new markets, sources of raw materials, and geopolitical advantages. The partition of Africa, in particular, became a focal point of contention among European powers as they vied for control over vast territories and valuable resources. The Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885 formalized the process of colonial partition in Africa, establishing guidelines for the division of the continent among European powers. This diplomatic agreement, orchestrated by Chancellor Otto von Bismarck of Germany, sought to prevent conflict between European nations by delineating spheres of influence and promoting orderly colonization. However, far from averting conflict, the scramble for colonies intensified rivalries between European powers and contributed to diplomatic tensions. The acquisition of colonies became a source of national pride and prestige, fueling nationalist sentiments and imperialist fervor within European societies. Competition for control over strategic territories, such as naval bases and trade routes, further exacerbated geopolitical rivalries and suspicions. Moreover, the colonization of Africa and Asia often involved the use of coercive tactics, including military force and exploitation of indigenous populations. Conflicts and confrontations between colonial powers and local resistance movements frequently erupted, leading to diplomatic crises and occasional military interventions. Number 2. Nationalism. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, nationalism emerged as a potent and pervasive force in Europe, profoundly shaping the political, social, and cultural landscapes of the continent. Nationalism, defined as the belief in the superiority and distinctiveness of one's own nation, fueled aspirations for independence, self-determination, and national unity among diverse ethnic and cultural groups. One of the primary manifestations of nationalism was the rise of nation-states characterized by unified territories, common languages, and shared cultural identities. However, in many parts of Europe, particularly within multi-ethnic empires like Austria-Hungary, nationalism also gave rise to tensions and conflicts between different ethnic and national groups vying for autonomy and recognition. In Austria-Hungary, for example, a diverse array of ethnicities and nationalities coexisted within the boundaries of the empire, including Germans, Hungarians, Czechs, Slovaks, Poles, Ukrainians, Romanians, Serbs, Croats, and others. The empire's policy of Magyarization, which sought to impose Hungarian cultural and linguistic hegemony, alienated many minority groups and fueled resentment and resistance. Nationalist movements emerged among various ethnic groups within Austria-Hungary, advocating for greater autonomy, cultural rights, and political representation. These movements often clashed with the centralizing tendencies of the imperial government and the dominant ethnic groups, leading to social unrest, political agitation, and occasional violence. Similarly, in other multi-ethnic empires such as the Ottoman Empire and the Russian Empire, nationalist aspirations and struggles for self-determination were widespread. Ethnic minorities within these empires, including Armenians, Kurds, Ukrainians, Poles, Finns, and others, sought to assert their cultural identities and secure greater political autonomy or independence. The spread of nationalist ideologies also contributed to the destabilization of the international order, as rival nationalist movements competed for territorial control and political influence. The principle of self-determination, which asserted the right of nations to govern themselves free from external interference, became increasingly influential and served as a rallying cry for oppressed ethnic groups seeking liberation from imperial rule. Number 1. Assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary and his wife Sophie in Sarajevo on June 28, 1914, stands as the immediate trigger for the outbreak of World War I, but its significance extends far beyond the confines of that singular event. The assassination, orchestrated by a Bosnian Serb nationalist named Gavrilo Princip, set off a chain reaction of diplomatic crises and military mobilizations that ultimately led to the eruption of war across Europe. The assassination itself was a culmination of the simmering tensions and nationalist aspirations that had been building in the Balkans for decades. Bosnia, where the assassination took place, had been annexed by Austria-Hungary in 1908, a move that was deeply resented by many Serbs who saw Bosnia as rightfully belonging to a greater Serbia. Gavrilo Princip, a member of the radical nationalist group known as the Black Hand, saw the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand as an opportunity to strike a blow against Austro-Hungarian rule and ignite a rebellion in the Balkans. On the morning of June 28, 1914, Princip and his accomplices ambushed the Archduke's motorcade in Sarajevo, fatally shooting both Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie. The assassination sent shockwaves throughout Europe and sparked an immediate diplomatic crisis between Austria-Hungary and Serbia. Austria-Hungary, viewing the assassination as a direct attack on its sovereignty, issued an ultimatum to Serbia, demanding strict measures to suppress anti-Austrian sentiment and punish those responsible for the assassination. Serbia's response to the ultimatum was deemed unsatisfactory by Austria-Hungary, prompting the Austro-Hungarian Empire to declare war on Serbia on July 28, 1914. This act of aggression against Serbia triggered a series of alliances and commitments as other European powers were drawn into the conflict according to the terms of their alliances. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. Don't forget to subscribe for more.